Time magazine calls him the world's most innovative farmer. Joel Salatin gained an international reputation for the way he transformed his once degraded farm in Virginia, USA, into a profitable organic enterprise. He's presently on a speaking tour in Australia, a visit which coincides with the near completion of a landmark court case about a farmer's right to grow genetically modified crops. An organic farmer from Kojonup in Western Australia is suing his neighbour for alleged contamination by GM canola. Earlier, I asked Joel Salatin for his take on this important court battle.
Well, unfortunately, in the U.S., the courts have pretty much sided with the GMO lobby, and suggesting that a farmer has no rights to be protected from GMO contamination. That's the way the courts are ruling right now in the U.S. I don't agree with it, but that's the way the courts are ruling.
So the battle's not over in the US?
Oh, not by a long shot. It's not over in the world. It's just coming. In fact, there's a tremendous amount of pushback in the industrial food, community as our side gains market share, and as people, one by one, begin opting out of the industrial food movement, and that what I call that tsunami of alternative food is chipping away at the stranglehold that the industrial food community has on the food system, and they're not happy campers. They don't like losing a little bit of market share, and so they're fighting back with things like, farmers markets are unsafe, backyard gardens are unsafe.
Well, if we look at GMOs, one view is that they are the key to feeding the world. Do you think they have a legitimate place in ag?
I think what's fascinating about GMOs is that this technology is now just entering its 15th year. And it took 14 years from the beginning of DDT. You might remember the famous pesticide DDT. It took 14 years from its development to where there was actually scientific epidemiological causation to the fact that was creating three-legged frogs, infertile salamanders, and hydrologic dead zones in gulfs and oceans and streams. So there's a kind of a slinky effect, if you will, from the point of innovation to where you find all of the externalities and the unintended consequences of something that we've innovated. We see that in all innovation, but it's also true when it comes to agricultural chemicals and innovation like that, if we assume that GMO is an innovation. So it's been 15 years since that's taken place. Just in the last year, which was the 14th year, I think we had 76 scientific studies come up from around the world in many foreign countries, impugning not only the veracity of GMOs, I mean just the claims that they grow more or whatever, but also this incredibly increasing amount of unintended consequences.
What do you produce on your 220 hectare farm, and how do you integrate all the various operations?
Yeah, well, we're in primarily pastured livestock. We have a large garden and some orchard, for our own personal consumption. But our main deal is pastured livestock. So we have beef cattle, pigs, turkeys, laying chickens, meat chickens, rabbit, lamb, and ducks, egg layer ducks. And so there's a pretty wide assortment of animals that we move around the pasture, and they're intricately related, so that, for example, we follow the cows with egg mobiles, and the chickens scratch through the cow patties, eat out the fly larvae, spread out the dung, in the field, so that it fertilizes a lot more ground and doesn't make, overly fertilized spots in other places. So we're consistently seeing how to integrate rather than segregate the livestock, and view natural patterns like the wildebeest on the Serengeti, where they move every day and they're always mobbed up, and they're mowing this forage, and they don't get grain and they don't get silage. We're viewing that as an herbivore template, trying to use it as a pattern. I'll make scissors here, as a pattern to cut around this natural template, lay it down on a commercial domestic production model, and say, how do we duplicate that natural pattern on a commercial domestic production outfit.
Is your farm profitable? I mean, how many families can it support compared to when you took it over?
Oh my goodness, when we came to the farm in 1961, I mean, it wouldn't even support one salary. Today, you know, we're supporting half a dozen off of that roughly 100 acres of open land. You know, the average farm in our community generates about $250 per acre in gross annual sales. We generate $8,000 per acre in annual gross sales because we're layering these different species symbiotically and synergistically on the pasture. The other thing that we're doing is that we are value adding. You know, you've heard all farmers always say, well, the middleman makes all the profit. You know, the middleman makes all the money. Well, if that's where the money is, then I want to be one. You know, pick me, I'll be the middleman. And so the processing, the distribution, and the marketing, those different hats, we wear those different hats on our farm, and we sell directly to restaurants, directly to individuals, both on the farm and in a delivery scheme. We collaborate with other farmers in the area and so that their stuff can go on our delivery vehicle to create economies of scale. And all of this is creating an ability to greatly increase the total income from a given piece of land, because the jobs that most farmers outsource to industrial processing, distribution, and marketing facilities, we now do on site, including things below the point of production, like all of our own compost. We've never bought a bag of chemical fertilizer in 50 years. We've never planted a seed in 50 years. But what we're doing is stimulating the hydrologic biomass carbon-centric cycle with this intensive management and relational multi-speciation, I call it ballet in the pasture, to actually greatly increase the production even while we build a lot more soil.
Can your system be scaled up, or is industrial farming the only way the world's farmers can feed 7 billion people?
Yeah, not only can our system be scaled up, it's fascinating that you asked that question, because, you know, 20 years ago, people always ask, got done with my thing, and oh, well, that's very cute, but how does it scale up? Today, now that we're running 1,000 head of cattle and almost 1,000 hogs and 25,000 broiler meat birds and 4,000 layers and thousands of turkeys and all this. Now people ask, how do you scale it down? Because a lot of the people interested in this kind of multi-speciated, direct marketed, local centric agriculture are coming at it from a small scale rather than a larger scale. So, we're not a small farm. I mean, if you take the land that we lease in the area as well and add it up, we're actually employing 20 people full-time on the farm. There's 20 people, so it's not a small operation.
What's the message you're promoting while you're here?
Well, the message I'm promoting while I'm here is trying to deal with the 60-year-old farmer. Australia is just like the U.S. in that the average farmer is 60 years old. What that means is that we're losing our farmers, and in fact, in the next 15 years, 50% of our farmland is going to change hands, whether it's sold, inherited, or inherited and then sold, or whatever. And so I see this crisis of land management and farming in the community when you have 60-year-old farmers. The fact is that when the impediments to entry for young people are so onerous that young people can't get in, then old people can't get out. And so both generations are stuck here in this inability to have multi-generational fluidity. So our message on this tour, and my son and daughter-in-law are with me, our message is fields of farmers. There are ways to create multi-generational, win-win, collaborative production patterns so that a given piece of land can produce 5 times as much as it's producing and create the income stream with synergistic, symbiotic, complementary income streams so that that next generation can leverage the tractor, the buildings, and the land base owned by old people, leverage that equity to their own new salary. And that then creates continuity in in a farming legacy. And that's what we're trying to encourage.
And how do you get farmers to do that?
Well, how you get farmers to do that is first of all, you realize that that no farm is fully utilizing the air, soil, water of its place. I mean, there's not a grain farm, for example, that wouldn't do better. Instead of sending its grain off to a silo, feeding it through omnivores on site. An orchard can grow pastured poultry underneath. A beef cattle or sheep farm can run pastured poultry behind the herbivores, like the egret on the rhino's nose. And so all of these enterprises then create a tremendous increase in the amount of saleable commodities, saleable enterprise that can occur on that farm, including things like wearing those multiple hats. The question is, does any farmer at 40 years old want to actually look in the mirror and tell themselves in the depth of their soul, yes, I really want to grow old alone? And I'm suggesting that is a fundamental question that when the average farmer looks in the mirror and says, do I really want to grow old alone? Even old hermit curmudgeons would say, no, I really would like to grow old with a second pair of hands that is loyal, faithful, and will continue this land care into the future. And so it's those patterns and techniques to create these collaborative arrangements so that we can get multi-generations on farms.
Well, some farmers might say, I'd love to do what Joel Salatin does, but I can't as my land's only good for, say, one thing, or I'm far away from big population centres where you've got markets and perhaps labour. What would you say to people who say, I'm too far away and my land's different to yours?
Well, what I would say to them is that if I did this presentation for my neighborhood in Virginia, all the old farmers surrounding me would say, that doesn't work here either. And what I start all these seminars with is a context to help people to understand that all of us are tempted to say, well, it won't work for me when we first hear a kind of a challenging or an off-the-wall, out-of-the-box idea. Our first reaction is always to, back up and say, whoa, it doesn't work for me, rather to embrace the new idea. I get that. We can do things to the landscape, from hydration to multi-speciation, that make any given block, no matter how remote, no matter where it is, rainfall or climate or anything else, that can make that block far more productive than it is. And it is getting over that reluctance to embrace the idea. See, the average farmer says, when I say, well, you could do a lot more with this place, I don't think we've even scratched the surface on our farm, okay? So I speak to myself as well as anybody. And when I first mention this to somebody, they have this notion that, oh no, how can I do more? I'm already working myself into an early grave, what more do you want me to do? And my message is, I'm not talking about you doing it. I'm talking about you embracing a partner that will do things to enhance not only what you do, but the total. That's what I'm talking about. And so you don't have to do it all, but you need to be open and willing to embracing partners that will come alongside you to do synergistic, symbiotic, complementary type income streams.
Well, your critics would have it, while that you promote the benefits of your way, you criticise other ways. Is there a room for a variety of approaches?
I don't care whether a person raises, Hereford cows or Angus cows or hair sheep or meat sheep or, cherries or apricots. That doesn't matter, because goodness knows I like all of that stuff. But the point of all this is that the creativity needed to tap in to continuity farms, the gifts and talents necessary to tap into all of the information management, I would even say, love that kind of a continuity farm requires. It doesn't all grow on one pair of legs. and we are social beings. And just like a camera crew works better with a camera guy and a sound guy, a farm works better with a visionary and a manager, an animal guy and a plant guy. Are you with me? And so you have this gifts and talents that actually where 1 + 1 = 3. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, you spend 100 days a year on the road travelling the world spreading your message. Are you having an impact?
Yes, I'm obviously having an impact. I mean, everywhere I go, there are people that come up. I mean, this is the joy of my life, you know, that people come up and say, wow, because of you, our family's farming full time. We didn't think that we could do it. Now we're doing it full time. I can't tell you what a joy that is. The other side of the flip side of the impact is that it irritates the other side that wants dependency and control and all these sorts of things. And so you know, there's a reaction from both sides, and it's exciting to see reaction. You know, a ship that moves creates some waves, and so it's fun to be a ship that's moving.
Joel Salatin, thank you very much for talking to Landline today.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it very much.